What's up YouTube, it's Matthew here. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about what NPR has to say about wholesale real estate. Now, you all know there are a lot of new cities and states and different counties that have more and more regulations regarding wholesaling real estate and the different advertising and marketing tactics that these companies participate in. And you all know on my channel, I talked about these subjects before. I recently made a video covering like the whole of United States as a country, about different states that require a license and cities and different things like that. So make sure you all check that video out. But this article is talking a little bit more, and this is like a national big time article. Like these other articles I may have read were probably local, county, or city articles or publications, but NPR is like a big global thing, and they're talking about this very subject of wholesaling real estate, or at least how some owners are being treated by wholesalers. In today's video, we're going to break down this article. We're also going to talk about my opinion about this article and what they have to say. Are there some things I agree with? Are there some things that I disagree with? And also what I'm going to do from here on out to adjust marketing or even advertising campaigns, or if I'm going to change something at all. And we're going to talk about how you can adhere to best practices in your wholesale real estate business. So if you all find value from this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below if you have any questions. Also follow me on Instagram at BizMatthew. Send me a DM with specific questions. Yeah, with my Instagram, if it's a specific question, I try to answer it, but if it's a general question that you all can easily find on my channel, sometimes I don't answer them. But hey, reach out if you have a question or just want to thank me for something, or if you all are interested in sharing how you got your first real estate deal or wholesale deal, like I did in my last video that came out last week about how Jay made $100,000 on his very first real estate flip. So if you would like to share your story, it may not be as big as $100,000, but maybe your first $5,000 wholesale deal. I would love to have you on this channel and share your story with my viewers. All right, so let's head right into the article. So the article actually starts by interviewing someone in Duluth, Georgia. And we talked about Georgia, how they're now having some sort of rules on advertising and marketing, just different things regarding wholesale real estate. Right now, it's still not required for you to have a license in order to wholesale real estate, but they are cracking down on different practices that some predatorial wholesalers do. And this story is just talking about that also. So in this article, they interviewed this woman named Jennifer, and she says that like a guy who calls himself Henry has been calling her for at least once a week. She says that the pitch is always the same. I want to buy your house. I'm willing to pay cash today. She says it's sort of like having to deal with an insistent car salesman. I just let him leave voicemails. But even those are pushy. Call me back, call me back, call me back, call me back. Call me right now. I'm in front of your house. Now, this is extreme. I don't know if most wholesalers have that, but if you look at different templates of postcards, of phone calls, sometimes people say things like this so they can get a response from the seller. But you don't have to go this far. Honestly, like if you're cold calling, just cold call the person, and like if they don't answer, just, you know, you can call them back later, or if they say no, just leave them alone. So I understand the frustration this seller is probably dealing with, but she also stated how she would call her husband from the house to see if anyone is in front of her house, and no one is ever there. So even on top of that, they're saying they're in front of their house, but they're not. So after that, NPR started talking about why this is happening, right? And so I'm talking about this because they don't necessarily say wholesale real estate in this article, but that very story is just, it's another wholesaler, right? Someone trying to get a property under contract and sell it to an end buyer. So now NPR, after they stated the story, they talk about why this is happening. Why are these wholesalers going after these properties? And they kind of take a different approach, which I like. It's different than all these other articles or other stories about wholesalers not being the best. But they explain that in short, the blistering housing market, the supply of available homes is nowhere close to the demand from people who want to buy them. The supply is nearly 4 million homes short, according to the government-sponsored mortgage firm Freddie Mac. So many home builders went out of business after the housing crash, and it led to historic housing shortage. Now investors, large and small, are jockeying to snap up homes as the tight supply keeps pushing prices higher. And so they talk about Redfin, Open Door, and other individual investors and agents, and some more predatory outfits have been contacting homeowners just on the slim chance that they might be willing to sell to some random person calling on the phone. So I like this approach that they're taking. It's not their usual approach that you hear, like people who usually attack wholesalers. They're saying, yo, there's a housing shortage, there's a housing crisis. And so a lot of people are going after off-market properties now more than ever because there's not enough properties that are on market, right? Back in the day, even a few years ago, you can find a lot more properties on the MLS, even as an investor before. But now you have agents going off market, you have investors like flippers just going off market, and you also have wholesalers going off market. And I think they call them predatory outfits, but I wouldn't explain us like that. But yeah, so there are just more people going after these properties because the housing market is short. It's very slim. So another homeowner in Ohio stated that they have gotten increasingly worse in the past 6 months, 6 or 7 calls every day. That's crazy. And the thing is, this woman who says that, most likely it's not the same wholesaling company. It's probably 6 or 7 different wholesaling companies targeting her, and maybe one is calling once a week, another one is calling twice a week, and so she just happens to get all these phone calls in one day. But Ohio is another state that we mentioned in our other video about the different states or cities that have some sort of regulation on wholesaling real estate. We talked about how as a wholesaler you can still do it without a license, but you cannot do absolutely anything that's considered to be a real estate broker without a license. And so she talks about her story about getting that and everything. And she talks about how her property value increased 2x, over 2x over the past 10 years. She says she bought a property for $155,000 10 years ago in Columbus, Ohio, and now it's more than doubled. And the article actually talks about different things that we do. So it says that investors can go on the internet and buy lists of phone numbers for people whose home have risen in value, maybe more than the owners realize. So that's another thing. So they're catching on to like, yo, there's information out there. There's resources like PropStream. If you're interested, check the link down below if you're interested for a free 7-day trial. She said that even in this article that a wholesaler or an investor actually called her mother in order to contact her, and she just felt like that was just a little bit extreme. And I think that is extreme. Like if you're able to contact the homeowner directly, why contact their mother, right? Like that's going a little bit too far. I know it's a crazy market, it's highly competitive, but you don't have to go through somebody's mother in order to buy someone's house. Just relax, chill. And then NPR, they start talking about the city of Philadelphia, and I have a video about Philadelphia and different cities in Pennsylvania of how they're cracking down more and more on these different advertising and marketing techniques that a lot of wholesalers do. Then they had an attorney talk about the different practices that happen. So this particular attorney with Community Legal Services in Philadelphia, Michael Froelich, he says that these guys get into their house and they use these high pressure and deceptive sell tactics to sort of hammer and hammer and hammer the homeowner until the homeowner signs the document. He says that he has seen elderly or lower income residents sign away their homes for half of what they're actually worth. It's crazy, yeah. Like I think sometimes as salespeople, we can go a little bit too hard because we understand the shortage. We understand that there's another guy just as eager to get a deal as us. So we try to stay at someone's house until we get a contract signed. But you know, I'm learning more and more that's just not the best way to do it, right? There's other methods to acquire properties, and that there are a few deals that you can find on the MLS and different marketing techniques that you can use. But yeah, this pressure is like, I'm just imagining family members, like that's something that I don't want them to go through. And you know, it's definitely opening my eyes to this industry. You know, I still believe there's a place for us wholesalers, but the different marketing and techniques that we use, I don't know. You know, I think sometimes it can go a little bit far, a little bit extreme, like this example. But yes, you can still use the power of sales, but don't try to manipulate someone into signing the document, and don't take advantage of elderly people or people who are not in the know. All right, so they have plenty of examples in this article. They definitely did their research, and this person is actually in Florida. So they had someone from Georgia, from Columbus, Ohio, and now St. Petersburg, Florida. And she talks about how she got a postcard, and I do postcards. And she said that one of the postcards came in the mail and it said, "Third notice, I am hoping that this card catches you in time." She says it looks designed to scare maybe an elderly person into calling the number back for whoever is going to fall for it, I guess. And she said she has also been getting some of those homemade postcards with pictures of her house on them. And so she just feels like it's a little bit creepy, especially when she's living alone. But like, yeah, I noticed those templates. Like when I go to order my postcards, I noticed those templates and I just felt like they were always a little bit too extreme. Like I don't have to go that far to get a deal. Like mine's just, it's still bright. It's a yellow postcard, but it just says, "Hey, I want to buy your house. Are you interested?" You can just leave a message if you want to. If not, totally fine. But like when they say, "Oh, foreclosure or third notice," it can go a little bit extreme. So yeah, essentially that was the different stories that were included in this NPR article. They didn't specifically mention wholesaling real estate, but obviously they're talking about wholesalers. And so what can we do? And what is my opinion overall about this issue? You know, I'm learning more and more that different marketing techniques where it's just so repetitive and it's just so much is a little bit extreme, especially if you try to use tactics that you want to be used on your mother or your grandmother, right? You wouldn't want some random investor trying to have your mother or grandfather sign a document that they don't really understand. Like that's a no-no. And I still think this is the minority group of wholesalers. I think the majority of us wholesalers, we don't try to do that. We don't try to force people into doing things, right? We let them come to us. And I'm just learning more and more that I think the wholesaling industry as a whole is going to take a shift into more of a indirect marketing technique, right? I think there's going to be more PPC ads, a little bit more direct mail, and working with real estate agents, right? I think there's going to be less texting, less RVMs, even less cold calling, right? Because I think the different counties and their districts are going to really crack down on those type of marketing techniques. And so yeah, for me, you know, I think my marketing technique is still pretty good. Like in my postcards, I let them know, hey, you can just leave a voicemail if you want. But I still send out postcards. And if someone says they're not interested, I don't market to them at all again. I'm okay with like, yo, there's other houses around here. Yeah, maybe I'll pull a list and they're in that list, but it'll probably be a year or two later when I'm marketing it to them. Another thing to consider is just making sure you're honest, you're direct, you're humble, and like you don't feel salesy to the homeowner, right? Yeah, that's essentially what I wanted to talk about with this article in different ways that we can learn how to maybe make some adjustments to this business and to recognize that I still believe the minority is still, I guess, this extreme, and that even though more and more regulations, more articles are coming out on wholesaling and the negative practices of the business, that people are still making tons of money. Like it's still a great business to get into if you want, and people's business has just been increasing. So there are still houses out there that people understand that value of their house is not high, right? That they need to get at a lower price because it needs fixing or they want to move away fast. I don't want this to discourage you all from pursuing this business even more. All right, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, comment down below, and I'll talk to you all later. Peace.